Welcome to another deep dive with us. Today, we're traveling back in time a bit.
Way back.
Yeah, way back to the 10th century CE, to the heart of the Fatimid Caliphate.
Oh, wow.
A powerful Islamic empire that, stretched across North Africa, Egypt, and Syria.
Yeah, a really fascinating period.
It is. And at the center of it all is a figure that you might not have heard of before.
Okay.
al-Qadi al-Numan.
al-Qadi al-Numan.
And we've got some great excerpts, actually, from a few scholarly works about his life and legacy.
I'm excited to dive in.
I think it's going to be a fascinating story. And he was more than just a scholar. He was like a legal and theological powerhouse who helped shape this whole empire.
Yeah, his role as the chief jurist of the Fatimid Caliphate is just incredible.
Yeah.
Imagine, the challenge of creating a legal framework for this vast, diverse empire.
Wow. Yeah, so what was the legal landscape like back then?
So the Fatimids followed the Ismaili branch of Islam, which had its own distinct legal traditions, but it wasn't just applying pre-existing rules, you see. Al-Qadi al-Numan had to create a system that could address, the complexities of daily life.
Yeah.
And everything from trade and marriage to religious practices and governance.
Right.
And he had to do it in a way that legitimized Fatimid rule and solidified the authority of the Imams.
So he's got all these different things that he's juggling. He's balancing religious doctrine. He's balancing legal precedents.
Political reality.
And political realities. Oh, my gosh. That's a lot of pressure.
Talk about pressure.
Yeah.
And that's where his magnum opus, the Daʿāqqim al-Islām, comes in.
Okay.
The pillars of Islam. And it's not just a collection of legal rulings. It's a really carefully constructed legal framework that puts the Imam at the center.
So instead of just relying on, the Quran and the Hadith, he's drawing his authority from the Imams directly.
Precisely. The Daʿāqqim al-Islām codifies Ismaili law, emphasizing that the Imam's rulings are divinely inspired and absolutely binding.
Okay, so that's different than the Sunni tradition.
It is a bold move that really sets Fatimid jurisprudence apart.
So how does that work in practice? Can you give me a real-world example of that?
Sure. Let's take inheritance laws, for example.
Okay.
In Sunni legal traditions, there are fixed shares for different heirs, but in the Daʿāqqim al-Islām, al-Qadi al-Numan argues that the Imam have the authority to adjust those shares.
Oh, wow.
Based on the specific circumstances to ensure fairness and equity.
Huh.
It's a really fascinating example of how Fatimid law prioritized flexibility and the Imam's judgment.
Okay, so it's not just about rigid rules. It's about applying principles of justice in a nuanced way.
Exactly.
This is not your average law textbook.
It is far more than that.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of al-Qadi al-Numan's brilliance and his understanding of the Fatimid vision for a just and divinely guided society.
Wow. So he's laying down the law, literally.
Literally.
But he was also super involved in all these theological debates of the time.
Oh, absolutely.
What were some of the key issues that he was tackling?
Well, one of the biggest challenges for the Fatimids was proving their legitimacy as the rightful successors to the Prophet Muhammad.
Right.
They faced opposition from both the Sunni Abbasids and the Twelver Shia,
Of course.
who had their own claims to leadership.
Yeah, so al-Qadi al-Numan steps into this theological battleground to kind of
To defend.
to defend the Fatimid Imams.
Exactly. And he doesn't shy away from controversy at all.
Okay.
He delves into these complex theological arguments,
Right.
citing Quranic verses and prophetic traditions to support the Fatimid claim. He argues that true guidance can only come from a living, visible Imam, which directly challenges the Twelver Shia belief in a hidden Imam.
Oh, okay, so that's a bold move.
It is.
He's taking on some powerful opponents there. So how does he back up these claims?
Well, he masterfully kind of weaves together legal reasoning and theological arguments,
Okay.
often employing ta'wil, which is the esoteric interpretation of religious text.
Right.
He argues that the Quran contains hidden layers of meaning that can only be unlocked by those with special knowledge, the Imams.
So the Imam isn't just a political leader, but he's also this spiritual guy
Precisely.
who can unlock these deeper truths of Islam.
Exactly. It's a sophisticated argument that elevated the status of the Imams and strengthened the Fatimid claim to leadership.
Yeah, so it sounds like he's a master strategist.
Oh, he was?
Using his intellect to really solidify the Fatimid dynasty's hold on power.
He certainly was.
Yeah.
And his influence went way beyond the courtroom and the realm of scholarly debate.
Okay.
He was a crucial player in shaping the Fatimid daʿwa.
Oh, now remind me again about the dawa.
Okay, so imagine trying to maintain a cohesive religious identity across this vast empire with all these different cultures and languages.
Right, right.
That was the challenge that the Fatimids faced.
Yeah.
And the daʿwa was their solution.
Okay.
This sophisticated system of missionaries who were very carefully trained to spread a consistent message.
So they're like cultural ambassadors.
You could say that.
For the Fatimid Empire?
Yeah, making sure everyone was on the same page, religiously speaking.
Okay, so al-Qadi al-Numan's writings became essential training manuals for these missionaries.
Especially on theology and law.
Okay, so he's not just shaping the legal system, he's shaping the message.
Exactly.
That's going out to new converts.
It's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And he outlines the structure of the dawa, emphasizing hierarchy, loyalty to the imam, and the importance of doctrinal consistency.
Wow.
He wants to make sure that the message remains pure,
Right.
untainted by outside influences or any misinterpretations.
Okay, so the imam's authority extends not only to the legal sphere, but also to the spreading of religious knowledge as well.
And that's a key takeaway.
Yeah.
Al-Qadi al-Numan's work wasn't just about law or theology in isolation.
Right.
It was about creating this unified system of thought and practice that legitimized the Fatimids and solidified their position as both political and spiritual leaders.
So he's like the architect of a whole worldview,
That's a great way to put it.
carefully crafting every element to support the Fatimid vision.
He was a master builder, using his intellect and his pen to create a legacy that extended far beyond his own lifetime.
And that's a story for our next dive.
For our next
I
dive.
can't wait. Until then, listeners, ponder this. How did al-Qadi al-Numan's work shape not just the Fatimid Empire, but the course of Islamic history? We'll delve into that and more in part 2. Welcome back, Dip Divers. We're continuing our journey through the Fatimid Caliphate, exploring the life and legacy of al-Qadi al-Numan.
Yeah, last time we left off talking about his influence on the dawa.
Right. The network of missionaries spreading all those Ismaili teachings.
And it's amazing, his work had such a lasting impact on the dawa,
Yeah.
even after the fall of the Fatimid Caliphate.
That's what I find so interesting about this whole thing, like empires rise and fall, but ideas, if they're powerful enough, they can kind of transcend those boundaries.
Absolutely. And in al-Qadi al-Numan's case, his ideas were preserved and studied
Right.
by Ismaili communities,
So silly.
especially the Tayyibi Mustallion branch.
Right. The Tayyibi Mustallions. Now, you mentioned that there are different branches within Ismailism.
Yeah.
Can you remind me about that split?
Sure.
And why the Tayyibi Mustallions found al-Qadi al-Numan's work so relevant?
Okay, so after the death of the 6th Fatimid Caliph, there was a succession crisis. One branch, the Nizaris, they supported Nizar, the designated heir.
Okay.
The other branch, the Mustallions, backed another son.
Got it.
And then the Mustallions later split into the Hafizi and the Tayyibi branches.
Okay, so we've got a family feud.
Right.
With some serious theological implications.
With huge implications.
So what sets the Tayyibi Mustallions apart
Okay.
in their connection to al-Qadi al-Numan?
Well, the Tayyibi Mustallions, unlike the Nizaris, they believe that their line of imams continues to this day.
Oh, okay.
An unbroken chain of spiritual authority.
So it goes back to al-Qadi al-Numan's emphasis
Exactly.
on the living imam.
You got it. For the Tayyibi Mustallions, his works,
Right.
particularly the Daʿāqqim al-Islām, aren't just historical artifacts. They provide a living framework for their understanding of religious authority and law.
So they're not just reading this as like a history book. This is a living, breathing document for them.
They see his writings as directly relevant to their relationship with the imam, their interpretation of religious texts, and their daily lives.
So for them, al-Qadi al-Numan's legacy isn't just a chapter in a history book. It's like a vital part of their faith.
It's a huge part.
That's amazing.
And it's a testament to the power of his ideas. And it's not just the Tayyibi Mustallions who find value in his work.
Right.
Scholars of Islamic history, law, and philosophy, they continue to study al-Qadi al-Numan to gain a deeper understanding of the Fatimid era and the development of Ismaili thought.
So what's the takeaway here?
Yeah.
For someone who might not be an Ismaili scholar or a historian,
I think there are several things.
what makes al-Qadi al-Numan a figure worth remembering even all these centuries later?
Well, first, his sheer intellectual prowess is remarkable. I mean, think about it. He was a master of law, theology, and history.
Wow.
And he was able to synthesize all of that knowledge into a coherent legal system for an entire empire.
It's like he was juggling all these different academic disciplines while building a legal and theological skyscraper.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And he didn't just theorize. He was deeply involved in the political and religious life of his time, putting his ideas into practice,
Right.
shaping policy, guiding the Fatimid mission.
So it's that blend of intellect and action.
Yeah.
That's so impressive.
He was a thinker and a doer committed to making a real difference.
And his unwavering dedication to the Fatimid Imams and his faith.
Yeah, you could feel his conviction in his writing.
Right.
This deep-seated belief in the truth and justice of the Fatimid cause.
It wasn't just a job for him, it was a mission.
It was a mission for him.
It reminds me of something we talked about earlier, how al-Qadi al-Numan used ta'awwul to kind of unlock deeper meanings in the religious texts.
Right.
And that idea of uncovering hidden truths, that appeals to a lot of people, even those outside the Ismaili tradition.
That's true. It speaks to that universal human longing.
Right.
For a deeper meaning, a desire to go beyond the surface and discover something profound.
So even though his work is rooted in a specific historical and religious context, it also kind of taps into these broader human themes that just transcend time and place.
Exactly. It's like finding a treasure chest filled with ancient coins.
Ooh.
Each coin has its own specific value and history, but the treasure chest itself represents something universal.
Yeah.
The human fascination with discovery, the desire to unearth these hidden riches.
That's a really good way to put it. So al-Qadi al-Numan is like a bridge between the past and the present.
Yeah.
He's a reminder that history isn't just a collection of dusty old stories, but it's a source of wisdom, inspiration.
And guidance.
And even practical guidance for navigating the challenges that we face today.
It really is.
So as we kind of continue to explore his legacy,
Yeah.
what are some of those enduring themes that emerge from his work?
Well, one that we've already talked about is the authority of the living imam.
Right.
This remains a central tenet of Ismaili belief.
Of course.
And it provides a sense of continuity and spiritual grounding for many.
Like having a compass to guide you through life.
Exactly.
A sense of connection to this larger spiritual lineage.
Another theme is that balance between esoteric and exoteric knowledge. This idea that there's a deeper symbolic layer of meaning beneath the surface of religious texts.
Right.
Continues to intrigue people from all sorts of different backgrounds.
It speaks to that human desire to explore, to uncover hidden depths, to find the secrets beneath the surface.
And then there's al-Qadi al-Numan's focus on the ethical underpinnings of law and governance.
Okay.
He wasn't just interested in rules and punishments.
Yeah.
He was deeply concerned with creating a just and equitable society.
Right.
A system where the law served a higher moral purpose.
And this feels so relevant today, especially when you think about all the issues that we grapple with around fairness and equality and the abuse of power.
Absolutely. Al-Qadi al-Numan's work reminds us that law and governance should be grounded in these moral principles.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just have laws. Those laws need to reflect a commitment to creating a just and compassionate society.
And it's inspiring to think that a scholar from the 10th century can still offer valuable insights into these contemporary challenges.
It's a testament to the enduring power of ideas to transcend time and space.
Right.
And it underscores the importance of studying history, not just for its own sake, but for the wisdom it offers and the lessons we can learn from those who came before us.
So as we continue to explore al-Qadi al-Numan's legacy, let's keep in mind these broader themes, these threads that connect his work to our own lives and our own search for meaning and purpose.
And remember, we're just scratching the surface here.
Right.
There's so much more to discover in the rich tapestry of Fatimid history and Ismaili thought.
I'm ready to keep digging, but for now, we'll pause our deep dive here. In our final segment, we'll explore the ripple effects of al-Qadi al-Numan's life and work.
We'll consider how his story might inspire us to think about our own roles in shaping the world around us.
Until then, keep those minds curious and those hearts open.
We'll be back soon to wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of al-Qadi al-Numan.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the life and legacy of al-Qadi al-Numan. We've explored his role as a jurist, a theologian, and a key figure in shaping the Fatimid Caliphate.
A true intellectual architect, as you said.
Exactly. But before we wrap up, I want to talk about the ripple effects of his work. It's amazing to think how the actions and ideas of one person can have such far-reaching consequences, shaping events and influencing people centuries later.
It really shows the power of ideas.
Right.
Al-Qadi al-Numan's story is a perfect example of how one individual can leave a lasting impact on history.
It makes you wonder, what if things had gone differently? What if he hadn't been there to guide the Fatimid Caliphate through those early years?
It's a fascinating question to think about.
Yeah.
Imagine the Fatimids without his legal brilliance to codify their laws and solidify their authority. The Daʿāqqim al-Islām, might never have been written.
Right.
And their legal system could have developed in a very different way.
It's like a building without its foundation.
Exactly. It just wouldn't be as strong or have that same structure.
And his defense of the Imamate was so important, too.
Absolutely.
The Fatimids were always facing challenges to their legitimacy, especially from the Sunni Abbasids and the Twelver Shia.
Right.
Without his arguments and his skill in using religious texts, their claims to leadership might have been much weaker.
It's possible that the Fatimid Caliphate, without his influence, might have collapsed much sooner.
Wow.
He played such an important role in strengthening their legitimacy and ensuring the continuity of their rule.
And then there's the impact on the daʿwa. I can't imagine the missionary network being as effective without his clear explanation of Ismaili doctrine and his emphasis on hierarchy and loyalty to the imam.
You're right. The daʿwa was so important in spreading Ismaili teachings and expanding their influence. His writings gave them a framework for their mission,
Right.
making sure there was a consistent message and a strong connection to the imam's authority.
So without his guidance, the daʿwa might have struggled, and we might have seen a less unified and less impactful Ismaili movement.
That's definitely a possibility. It's hard to overstate how important his contributions were, not just to the Fatimids, but to the development of Ismaili thought as a whole.
It's incredible to think about all these different what-ifs and alternate histories that could have branched out from the life of one man.
Right. It highlights how interconnected everything is and the impact that individuals can have.
Yeah, it reminds us that history isn't just a fixed story. It's made up of countless choices, actions, and ideas.
Exactly.
Al-Qadi al-Numan's story is a perfect example of that. It makes us think about our own roles in shaping the world, the choices we make, the ideas we support, and the legacy we leave behind.
It encourages us to see the potential we all have to make a difference, even if it seems small.
Right. Those little actions can sometimes have huge effects.
Exactly. And it shows how important it is to understand history, not just as dates and facts,
Right.
but as a source of wisdom, inspiration, and guidance for dealing with the present and shaping the future.
The past isn't just something that happened a long time ago.
No, it's full of knowledge and insight.
And it can teach us so much.
If we're willing to learn from it.
So as we come to the end of our deep dive into the life and legacy of al-Qadi al-Numan, let's remember the power of ideas, the way events are all connected,
Right.
and the potential we each have to make a real impact on the world.
And let's keep exploring and questioning
Yeah.
and digging deeper into the stories of the past, learning from those who came before us.
Who knows what we might find, what kind of impact we might have.
The possibilities are endless.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those hearts open to the wonders of history and the power of human thought.